58 overnight. And the word of the day tomorrow, delightful. Sunny and 79. 69 at O'Hare. 69 in Aurora. 69 at DuPage Airport. Your next news update is at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy coming to you live from Signature Bank in Rosemont, kicking off our Business Boost promotion, joint initiative with Signature Bank. And Amy, I got a text from a friend of mine that read the following. If friends made vaccination, kids too, a condition of visiting their lake house for a weekend, what would you do? What would be your response?
Ooh. Well, my kids and ourselves are vaccinated, but I would not go. That's not, that's, first of all, should friends even be asking friends to see if they're vaccinated?
Friends don't let friends go to lake houses unvaccinated. My response was, I would tell those fear-addled ignoramuses to go make love to themselves by way of making it clear we're not friends anymore.
Okay. Well, there's your answer.
This is an opportunity to prune your friend circle, I would suggest. Now, of course, that's easy for me to say with a very small friend circle.
Right. And sorry for interrupting, but that's what America's become. We're now snitching each other out. We're still giving each other the stink eye if you're not wearing a mask in a store. We're asking stupid questions like that and putting parameters around visits to lake houses. Is this the America you want? I want to get back our country.
Well,
and I want to get back our school system to normal. I want to get back control of my children.
Those lake house minders, though, must have been listening to Andy Slavitt, the outgoing Biden COVID czar, who was on CBS the other day pitching his book.
Yeah, somebody else profiting off the pandemic.
His book, Preventable. And you know the problem is, after 40% of small businesses have been eviscerated, a year and a half of school for K through college has gone.
Families have been destroyed. Do you know how many divorces there are? Just wait till those numbers come out.
And all of the other consequences of lockdown policies, in the face, by the way, now of studies from MIT, from the National Academies of Sciences, from University of Munich, that suggests that, the lockdowns had little or no impact on transmission. Andy Slavitt, top line takeaway, the COVIDians' rewriting of history didn't sacrifice enough.
Could have done
I think
better.
We all need to look at one another and ask ourselves, what do we need to do better next time? And in many respects, being able to sacrifice a little bit for one another to get through this and to save more lives is going to be essential, and that's something that I think we could all have done a little bit better on.
So when we look in the mirror and evaluate our own role in all this, the public, how we could have sacrificed more, as you say, and we think about the possibility of a difficult fall or winter or a difficult variant, what more needs to be done now to prepare ourselves as a public, putting aside the government and the scientific part of this? For us as the public, what's the message?
Well, there's a couple simple things. One is that all the people that for so long live so close to the edge, that don't have a great safety net, that don't have great health insurance, but they're forced to work day in and day out to serve us. They're growing crops, they're delivering food to our warehouses, they're working in grocery stores, they're delivering food to our door. All those people are at risk all the time. And so there's a chapter in the book called The Room Service Pandemic, and it talks about how a lot of us had it quite okay during the pandemic and others didn't. So we should be looking at that. And then look, preventing the spread of the disease is really about a couple simple things. Not breathing near one another in large spaces. That's really it, if you want to be overly simple about it. And that requires a certain amount of sacrifice and change. It's a short period of time, and none of us can do it forever, and it's not pleasant. But when we do, we reduce the amount of spread pretty dramatically. And if the variants come back in the fall, as they will, the people who are unvaccinated really are going to need to pay serious attention to that and consider getting vaccinated, because we have some
That's you, Dan. He's talking to you.
Welfare state, more particular care in abiding the lockdown strictures, and get vaccinated.
And don't breathe in large spaces. I mean, what you should do more. Hold your breath longer.
Transmission, as I understand it, mainly in confined spaces among people who are locked down in their homes. But okay. You know who Slavitt reminds me of? He reminds me of Obama architect Jonathan Gruber. Who, famously basically said, we can't, the American people are too stupid to understand what they need, which is why we have to lie to them about Obamacare. That's sort of, Andy Slavitt is sort of cut from that cloth. And again, he's not the only one in the West trying to gaslight people about lockdown policy. Listen to what Bojo over in Britain had to say at the G7.
We've all been going through the most wretched pandemic our countries have faced for our lifetimes, maybe longer, much longer. And I actually think this is a meeting that genuinely needs to happen, because we need to make sure that we learn the lessons from the pandemic. We need to make sure that we don't repeat some of the errors that we doubtless made in the course of the last 18 months or so. And I think what's gone wrong with this pandemic, or what risks being a lasting scar, is that I think the inequalities may be entrenched. And we need to make sure that as we recover, we level up across our societies and we build back better, and building back greener, and building back fairer, and building back more equal, and how shall I, in a more gender neutral and perhaps a more feminine way. How about that, apart from anything else?
Did he get all the woke buzzwords in?
Yeah, equity,
pretty good
equality,
job.
Feminism, greener.
Strung those together nicely. We got to build back better in a gender neutral kind of feminine way.
In a greener way, too.
Is feminine and gender neutral, are they antonyms? For more about building back in a more feminine way, pleased to be joined by David Marcus, New York correspondent for the Federalist, Federalist.com, contributor to the New York Post. Don't buy Andy Slavitt's book, buy David Marcus's Charade, the COVID lies that crushed a nation. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Building back in a more equitable, fair, green, feminine, gender neutral kind of way.
Yeah, don't be selfish, all right? Just stop breathing in large spaces and put a dress on. All right?
What's so wrong? What's so hard about that?
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, but he sounded so arrogant, like he didn't even care about the sacrifices real Americans made.
Yeah, listening to Slavitt is really kind of, it's really kind of amazing. And first of all, it's obviously just an abject lie that we, that had we sacrificed more, we were going to stop the spread of this disease. That's perfectly clear. But what's becoming clearer and is so troubling is that this looks more and more like it was a dress rehearsal, and that the government's going to pull this out of their pocket anytime they want to tell you you're not allowed to go to church, anytime they tell you that you're not allowed to open your business. And it's scary stuff. And you know who benefits is the Chinese Communist Party benefits, and Amazon benefits, right? Because what does big tech want? They want you to sit in your house and order stuff online.
And when you say dress rehearsal, you mean that quite literally, as we're discussing. Are you going to have a float in the de Blasio Cuomo ticker tape parade in New York City celebrating their accomplishments during COVID?
I don't think so. I'm curious to see how this goes off. I mean, I don't think we've had a ticker tape parade in a long time. It's a bit of an anachronism anyway, because we don't really use ticker tape. But we'll see what they throw down the Canyon of Heroes. But look, I don't have a problem with that. I would like more celebration, right? I would like us to be able to start moving forward and put this behind us. But it seems like every time we try to do that, Fauci or somebody from the Biden administration out some variant from Mars, and you can never have your
Delta.
life.
No, now it's the Delta variant. And if kids don't get vaccinated, parents, you stand to risk your child's health if you don't get them vaccinated when there's therapeutics out there that are proven to work. So why the big push for the vaccine? And don't you think that that's why they're pulling out all these variants?
Yes. I mean, look, I actually think that as far as the vaccine push goes, this is just a situation where Biden and his allies have built this narrative. I interviewed for my book Dr. Montez Flowey, who was the head of Operation Warp Speed, back in July of last year. And he was quite clear that once we got to herd immunity, it was get back to normal life. And the other thing you're not hearing is, okay, so we 70%, vaccination rate that Biden wants. That doesn't even include the people who have had the virus and have natural immunity. So, I mean, we're way past all these numbers. And the American people need to be very suspicious of why our leaders won't just let us move on, or at least some of them, right? Some have. Well, but Democrats in particular won't.
Well, that's why. So with respect to the Warren Wilhelm and nipple rings Cuomo parade, I'm all for celebrating the carpe diem attitude toward living. But as per Slavitt and Boris Johnson and so many of these lockdown COVIDians, what I see afoot is an attempt to rewrite, paper over, present an alibi for what they did over the last year and a half, not celebrate getting back to living your best life. And this is an opportunity for politicians to be at the front of the parade, pretending that they acted judiciously, if not heroically, during this time.
Yeah, I mean, history was being rewritten in real time. I mean, this is why I wrote the book, right? I was covering the pandemic all of last year for the Federalist and for the New York Post. And somewhere around this time last year, it became clear to me that we were being lied to about things like the infection fatality rate, which studies were already showing was far lower than the doom and gloom that the World Health Organization was putting out there. Nonsense of, it's fine for 10,000 people to go to a BLM rally, but you can't go to church outside. So as I saw this happening, I felt like it was important to just start working on a document that turned into this book that shows all of these lies evolve. And maybe even more important than the lies is the deeper question of why. Why does our government and why does our media crave this kind of control over our lives? And that's something that I think the American people are going to have to grapple with for a long time.
Well, speaking of the media, this remarkable piece in New York Magazine, David Wallace Wells, talking about the Wuhan lab leak theory. And he wrote this. Practically speaking, the media as a whole is already there, having moved in just a few weeks quite close to acting as though it's true. A sign that the Trump era of American political epistemology may be mercifully receding, with liberal and center-left publications feeling now much freer to consider possibilities the president had once made functionally unthinkable. So it was functionally unthinkable to consider the Wuhan lab leak theory because Trump considered it. And anything he considered, even if the facts led in that direction, we couldn't consider because why? Because we're journalists? Or because,
right.
Or because, as Jerry Baker wrote in the Wall Street Journal today, because the mission is the message.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, listen, long before COVID, this was true, right? I mean, the moment that Donald Trump shocked the world by winning the presidency, several major news outlets like CNN, like the New York Times, like the Washington Post, they made it very clear that they had no intention of covering the Trump administration in the way that every other administration had been covered. They were on a mission to make sure that Donald Trump was a one-term president. And in a sort of sick way, their logic makes sense because they really convinced that the most important thing, whether it was in terms of the virus, whether it was in terms of foreign policy, whatever it was, that the most clear and present danger was Donald Trump himself. So any lies that they had to tell, any obfuscation, that was all perfectly fine. That was all towards the goal of getting rid of Donald Trump, who they convinced themselves horrible existential threat.
And what are your thoughts on Dr. Fauci and his? Did you mention him in your book?
Yeah, I'm worried that readers are going to be so disappointed because I don't really drag Fauci that hard in my book. I finished the book around December of last year. So that was before a lot of the stuff he's done this year, which has really just been kind of off the wall. But look, I don't blame Fauci the way some people do because, Fauci's job is to be, an expert on the spread of a virus, right? He's a hammer. Fauci doesn't know anything about unemployment or education or suicide rates or these things. So the mistake was for our society to put everything in his hands, right?
Yep.
Experts should be on tap, not on top. There's a great quote from 1910 from the Irish writer. And that's what we didn't do. Like, we needed his advice, but why we put him in charge of everything is a mystery to me. And my goodness, what a terrible mistake it was.
He is David Marcus, New York correspondent for the Federalist.com, contributor to the New York Post. The book, Charade, The COVID Lies That Crushed a Nation. Pick it up. David, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Jim Boyd, here to tell you about an incredible cost-saving opportunity you should consider for your building, office, or facility. For 30 years, Boyd Electric has been a local 134 electrical contractor providing quality service and technology. We help businesses large and small reap the benefits of energy-efficient lighting products. Boyd Electric has retrofitted hotels, big box stores, hospitals, and car dealerships, and is a total solutions provider that can serve your needs anywhere in the country. With our no capital outlay shared savings program, you can get 100% financing with customer payments based on an agreed upon share of realized energy savings. Once the balance is paid off, you own the equipment and retain the energy savings. Our partnership with manufacturers and our association with ComEd's energy efficiency programs provides you access to products and programs designed specifically to make upgrading